Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's been a long while. I haven't uploaded since November 2023, and now it's February 2024. It's been about 4 months. But yeah, we're still going to carry on with the old series, gaming, stories, things like that. But now we're starting a new series for football. And today we're going to be talking about Manchester United, Ten Hag, and the heartbeat of Manchester United, i.e., the players. So we're going to talk about Ten Hag, the type of manager he is he right for Manchester United, and the players, the style of play, can he get them clicking? And yeah, and we're also going to be talking about the structure of, how the players are, how the manager is, what is the club, do they match with the club ethos, the culture of the club? And yeah, let's get right to it. So, to get straight to the point, Ten Hag's system requires more than just individual work. There's not individual players that can stand out in this system. So, if one player doesn't work, or two or three, or in this case, five or six players do not work, the whole system will not work. Not just for Ten Hag, but for any team. But Ten Hag's way of making the players click is through, a structured, ball playing centre back. The goalkeeper starts off the system. But to make a long story short, if one or two or three players do not perform, the whole team will collapse. So Manchester United has been a team where lots of individual players have had to, have a few standout performances, like Paul Pogba, Edinson Cavani, um, and many others. So, standing out as the individuals, getting the goals, getting the assists, dragging the team through the mud, through the trenches of, oblivion, trying to get, win the game. An example of this is under Mourinho, Pogba's stand-up performance in the 3-2 win over Man City, where they're trailing by 2-0. And we saw Pogba, get those two goals, provide the assist to Chris Smalling, who scored the winning goal. But yeah, this is now a new era under Ten Hag, as he said. Era's come to an end. Right now, we're hearing that Klopp's going away from Liverpool, but going back to Manchester United, is this truly a start of a new era, or is it a um, end of his own era? Right now the results aren't going his way. You know, Scott McTominay, out of all people, is our top goal scorer this season. Højlund is just getting clicking, so there's a new coach, for strikers right now. Along with Benny McCarthy, there's Robin van Persie, which I have really did recommend. I've always been watching the sidelines from now, before I made this video, as a fan, looking at, Robin van Persie coming in as a striker coach for Højlund, who's our only main striker right now. So yeah, if one player does not work in the system, the whole system will collapse. Ten Hag's system requires everyone to do their part. And at Ajax, it was a bit of, similar players. So like Jurien Timber, um, who else? Lissandro Martinez, and, and building up from the back. So that's why he's always after Frankie de Jong, who, gets the ball from the centre back, drags it upfield, then makes the pass or even assist towards the striker or wingers, who then, run from the flanks. It's all inclusive. It's like everyone doing their part. Whereas at Manchester United right now, as I said before, our top goal scorer is Scott McTominay. The strikers getting going, Højlund, now after 4 months of, or 6 months of struggling, because if the striker doesn't have anything to play with, like either if he's not getting the assists or getting the passes through the onto the goal. So for Højlund, it's not so much that other people are stealing the limelight like Bruno Fernandes. It's more like, if he's not getting any service, how's he expected to deliver? He's expected to create chances, um, run through with the ball, become the target man, and also finish off the chances. So if he's just trying to finish off the chances, as like Erling Haaland, just sticking to the box or even like shooting from outside the box, he's getting the service from De Bruyne and other people to actually make and even Jeremy Doku even, to actually score the goal. And Højlund at Manchester United is expected to create the chances, finish off the chances, So it's almost like being an N'Golo Kante, where you're meant to be everywhere on the pitch, as well as finish the job, and that is not possible. Not for Højlund, not for any striker, not even Haaland. That's why it's very important for players other than Bruno Fernandes to actually get the assists, create the chances. And right now, if I think of any player other than Bruno Fernandes who can actually create chances, I can't. Like Anthony, everyone says he's like a fidget spinner, going around in the spear. He has to take time to settle in, which he hasn't gotten. He's been played game in, game out. I'm always on the side of, I'm a bit iffy about Anthony. I'm like, there should be. Facundo Pellistri should have been given a chance if he's not performing, if Anthony's not performing, which he wasn't. Now he's in La Liga for Sevilla, I believe. I could be wrong. But he did quite well against Barcelona, against Frankie de Jong. It's not about one match, it's about consistency. And if one player's not performing, they should have a like for like replacement, like there was at Ajax. But at Manchester United, it's very hard as of now to get rid of the deadwood, as every manager has said previously, like Louis Van Gaal, Mourinho, and Ten Hag will eventually say this. Like it's not very easy to replace the players from previous managers at the club. They buy new players, but to buy new players, you need to get rid of the wage bill, reduce the wage bill, get rid of the players. That is the problem, but we're going to get back to that later on. But right now, we're talking about the manager and the players. So there's no, from what I see, um, because of the injuries, I don't see a plan A. So if the players from the first team that Ten Hag wants to play aren't available, like Lisandro Martinez, Rafael Varane, and others, so how is he meant to play with a plan A? So he has to always resort to a plan B from minute one. So I always see a plan B of, hoofing it up front, trying to build from the back, but then there's a gap in midfield. So our midfield is always inconsistent. Our defense is always inconsistent because of injuries. So normally Lisandro Martinez is there, but now there's Johnny Evans, who, don't get me wrong, has been a brilliant player coming in, but there should be a like for like replacement for Lisandro Martinez. That would have been during Timber, but he went to Arsenal. There's talks of Scalvini because now there's new owners in Ineos, which we'll also get back to in a bit. I'm not saying Scalvini is the answer, but we need a like for like replacement, a ball playing centre back, other than Rafa Varane and Lisandro Martinez. So Rafa Varane's always injured because of age, because of being overplayed. He's played so many games for Real Madrid, for Manchester United, for France. It's time to get a replacement. So not immediate. We need him for this season, but as a like for like replacement, so someone who can ball play, we need a plan A before a plan B, C, D, whatever. Like we need. It's up to the manager to get the players to understand his style of play. And there's always a saying where it's never the student's fault for not doing well on tests, it's the teachers. But in this case, as Manchester United, they're all professional, international level players. They're bought for a reason because of, well, there should have been a reason they've been bought. But if they have been, the wrong player for the culture of the club, for the ethos of the club, so they're not hardworking, they're not turning up for training. These are basic requirements for a professional footballer. So that's what got them there in the first place. If they're not doing that, then they're not going to be part of the plan A, really, are they? Of being, the ideal player for a manager. That's why Scott McTominay has been picked by Mourinho, by Ten Hag, by Louis Van Gaal, because of his professionalism, because he's always turning up. He doesn't complain when he's not picked. But to be honest, he's been picked, by numerous managers, so he's never had a chance to complain. Even though he did, Mourinho said something like, he said something like, he stopped Scott McTominay from shouting at the senior players, trying to sort a hierarchy out of the players. So rather than the players having player power and adjusting the other players to their wants and needs as seniors of the squad, the manager picks the hierarchy of who's in charge, who's second in charge. And yeah, we've seen a lot of that this season. Bruno Fernandes is the captain, new captain. Harry Maguire was the captain. There was a bit of struggle at the start. Speak of Harry Maguire, he's doing really well now, which is good. But obviously, we wanted Kim Min Jae. as the ball playing centre back. We still need a ball playing centre back for sure. That's the key word you're going to hear throughout this video. And yeah, getting on straight to the next point. So after that first point of not having a plan A and not being able to play the main players of the first team that the Ten Hag wants, the solution for that will be because, well, getting to why that happens. So players panic like normal human beings, and these aren't the first team, solid first team professional players that are playing. It's a second team and bench players and also the youth. So not every youth talent or bench player has that strong mindset of just getting on the pitch, not being affected by what's going around you. They are human after all, no matter how good they are. But we're talking about bench players. So we're talking about people that are coming off the bench. We're talking about people that are in the fringes of the first team. You know, youth prospects, future stars. They end up playing in the first team, or in this case, even Johnny Evans, who's 35 years old and his last legs. They perform, but they can't play like that every day, game in, game out, in training and in the game. Especially if there's an inconsistency. So if there's injuries, you have to replace these players with other players, with new players, or even the fourth choice centre back or fifth choice centre back, or not everyone can be a Kobe Mainu. Just come into the team from the youth team into the first team and just start performing from like hit the ground running. So that's the problem. The solution for this will be the manager has to get across, like treat his fringe players like his main players as well. Give them importance, give them training, drill it into their heads about what the manager actually wants. Because if they're not performing on the pitch, panicking, losing possession of the ball, they could forget what's happened in training. But if the managers actually played the fringe players in big games from time to time, when it's not just down to injuries, they'll know that when the going gets tough, they're counted upon. So they won't be like, oh, we have the first team players, they're not injured anymore, we're not going to be relied upon. Like, make them think and feel like they can be called up at any time. So they'll always be ready for it rather than waiting for the injuries to come, break the team up into pieces, then have, the fringe players come on all of a sudden. And then when they come on the pitch, they panic, they lose possession of the ball, they don't play the way the manager wants them to play. And then the manager's head's on the line, like his job's on the line. So give these players consistent game time with or without injuries, the fringe players and bench players and substitutes. So bench or substitute players, make them feel and know that they are part of first team plans, either now and the future, like, switch them around, not just in cup games, but in Premier League games as well, and Champions League games, if possible, if they're actually in the Champions League, if they, are next season or not. It's always good to have a positive mindset. Oh, and also, yeah, it's also good to have a positive mindset, drill it into the players' heads that if you don't like do well for one game, it doesn't mean it's gonna be like that for the rest of the season. Like, have that game where you're playing your fringe players, play them with the first team players, give them importance, show them that, you're part of my plans. You win the game, you boost their morale. It's not that simple, but it's about using your players when you don't need them as well, not just when you need them, like so they feel valued. So that's my take of the first solution. So to have a plan A, and with the injuries at hand, when your players are injured, obviously you can play the fringe players, bench players. But even when you don't, play those fringe and bench players, make them feel important to the first team plans, even if there's no injuries. Now, the next issue is, you may have heard about player power, first at Chelsea, then at Manchester United, especially when Mourinho was at both teams, you heard that players threw the manager under the bus. You know why that happens? Is because the the manager doesn't drill the philosophy into the players' heads, that, my way is right, I can learn from you as well, but you're going to follow my orders. It's always like, it's my way or the highway. If you're not here to listen to me, get out, or, bench them, make them feel unwanted. That's what makes players rebel. I don't blame the manager for the injuries at hand, not being able to play the style of play, but not being able to drill it into the players' heads, playing into the last fact of fringe or bench players not being able to understand the philosophy is the manager's fault. As I said before, that point. Um, but at the same time, this is Manchester United. They're all professional players at either at international level or at least Manchester United level. Even if they don't feel like they are, they're at the club because someone saw something in them. Either if they don't fit the culture or the ethos of the club, obviously that's another issue, the scouts issue, scout network issue, we'll get to in a bit. But not in a bit, but maybe in the next video. But if the manager does not drill the philosophy into their heads, make them understand that, look, this is the way you play, whether you're a fringe player or bench player, it's the manager's fault. Despite the injuries, like you should be able to make the players understand your style of play rather than just leaving it on them in the big moments and then them messing up. The manager gives too much player power to the players because, you know, he treats everyone the same. So treating everyone the same is the biggest mistake you could do. Like the Cristiano Ronaldo, situation, like the Paul Pogba situation, if the player does not feel like a superstar, you can make every player feel like a superstar, but if you don't make the superstar feel like a superstar, it's going to backfire. They're going to rebel. They're going to, lead a pack of rebels. They're not hungry animals. They're not wolves. But I'm saying like they're going to lead other players in the wrong direction, especially the younger players, or even other senior figures. They'll try and move them to their side, try and persuade them into thinking the manager's horrible. Like even at every workplace, employees always say this manager's horrible, and then when something happens to them, they say, has this happened to you? Yeah, it's happened to me. Yeah, we should do this. Like, we shouldn't give him that much importance. F him. Things like that. Yeah. So that gives the players player power. So if you don't treat the wound, it's going to get infected. If you, yeah, it's just it spreads, it infects everywhere. You have to treat it. From the day one, the problem arises. The manager has to feel that there is a problem or have an insider. You know, an inside player that updates them about the situation in the dressing room. The manager should not be walking into the dressing room where it's a private area for the players to have a chat, talk crap about the manager, talk crap about if they're talking crap about the club, get them out. But the manager needs to sniff that out. Get rid of the player power is by actually treating the problem from day one rather than ignoring it, treating everyone the same. Superstars will feel annoyed and rebel against everyone, or help make everyone rebel against the manager, and the manager's off. Like his head's cut off. He's sacked. So yeah, don't give them player power. Don't treat them all the same. Treat the superstars as superstars, or everyone as superstars. Give them importance. Again, yeah, it runs into both points. But this is my take on this problem of player power. Now, what can I say about the previous managers? Like, I'll say the manager I felt safest with was LVG. I know everyone's gonna say, "Oh, boo, yeah, boring style of play, 1-1, 0-0, not enough goals, just defensive, park the bus." But my point is about making the players actually look professional and actually play professionally. So they'll always be, you know, wearing suits to the game. That's not the point. Like when they actually play like they have a plan. So even when there was a point where Louis Van Gaal was given a red card for overdoing it, I think it was after the Arsenal game where he was like, bickering with the referee, or maybe it wasn't, but there's one game where he was sent off, given the red card, sent to the stands, and the next game he couldn't even turn up. I know Mourinho is famous for that as well at Chelsea when he couldn't turn up for the next game multiple times throughout his 10 years at Chelsea as a Chelsea manager. Um, there was a point where he he hid in a laundry basket and was dragged in by one of the staff members, and then gave a team talk halfway through the match, at the 45th minute, just before going in to the second half. But yeah, Louis Van Gaal did no such thing, but he was also banned from Manchester United's one match for bickering with the referee, or doing something that he wasn't meant to do. um, but it was most likely bickering with the referee. So that's the only time I saw the team from my own eyes actually play with a structure, with a style, look calm on the ball. I really need to find out what game that was, but that's the only time I actually felt safe as a Manchester United fan, where players have actually taken the game by the reins. I believe they won that game. I hope they did, but I'm talking about the feeling, where the manager wasn't there, the players still knew what they were doing, and the only other time I felt like that was if Mourinho's in a final, then we know we're gonna win it. Like that's it. Like if the plan A doesn't work, he goes to plan B. Parks the bus. Closes off the game if they're leading. He doesn't go all out like a lunatic and just try and go for the second or third goal. And they only needed 1-0 and it's near the end of the match. Um, and that's only and only in finals with Mourinho. Otherwise, the rest of the time is also similar to LVG, where he's just drawing or losing. But he got trophies. He's the only manager that won three major trophies, in one season. After Sir Alex retired, and actually big trophies. Like we never thought the Europa League would be a big trophy for us, but it's a big trophy. Since Mourinho went, we haven't won a European trophy. We had a chance to win against Villarreal once. Was that under Ole? Yeah, it was under Ole. Lost. That would have been, on his level, on the level of Mourinho, if he won that Europa League final. If he did, but he didn't. And there was also the second time we came to the Europa League final, and we lost again. Um, yeah, this time under Ten Hag. So it was Villarreal and one other team. So Villarreal was the most recent one, I believe. Under Mourinho, no, under sorry, Ole, it was another Spanish team. Every time there's a Spanish draw in the Europa League, I just laugh. It's like playing La Liga games. Beat Barcelona, beat others, beat Villarreal with Ronaldo in the Champions League, and then lose against a Spanish team. It's always Spanish teams in the Europa League or Champions League that we come across and actually lose against. I think Sevilla's the one we lost against the most as a Spanish team, which is not so shocking. They are champions of Europe through Europa League. Europa League. They were once called the Real Madrid of the Europa League, but then Casemiro was like, had they won it more as many times as us? I don't think so. They're not the Real Madrid of the Europa League. That sort of thing. That mentality of a player at Manchester United, Casemiro like, is actually needed. How to break the journalists' dumb questions or dumb uh, comparisons. Make yourself stand out as Obviously, he's been there and done that with Real Madrid, but him at Manchester United he's not thinking, oh, I'm smaller now, I'm at a worse team. He's actually thinking of ways to break up the mind games and actually, you wouldn't think that of a player like Casemiro, who's always jolly, always just minding his own business. But that's captain material right there. Like you need a player that can actually break someone else's, you know, instigation. They're trying to instigate a reaction from you. You give a better answer, without instigating a war of words before a game, which is how they get into your head. And I believe that's perfect. So that's what's needed. Someone that can fight psychologically with the journalist without actually fighting, and actually build that mentality when even if they're not playing, they're injured. Someone to galvanize the team, get them together, have that solidarity. That's what's needed really as a second solution, or third, whichever one it was. So the fourth problem is that the players have a fixed mindset. So if the players at the club are not the right fit, the only way you could make that a little bit better is how to spread a growth mindset amongst the players. So even if you have like 2, 3, or 4 of them with a growth mindset, so that follow the manager's instructions, that realize that it's not the end of the world when you lose a game. Like it's not every game is a World Cup final, or a Club World Cup final, or even a Champions League final. Like you need someone that can tell the team, look, we made a mistake. You know, have a bit of a reaction, like get that anger out of your system rather than letting that sit, and resentment, and then having a crap game for the next 60 minutes. If you make a mistake on the 30th minute or in the first minute, don't let that affect you for the next 89 or 89 minutes plus. That's a true warrior mentality, which we need. Right now they have a fixed mindset. We need a growth mindset. So we had many of these players over the years, not to go back to the past, but I'm just naming a few of these players. Cristiano Ronaldo, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Wayne Rooney, even Di Maria. Like he was, his mindset. I could say his mindset wasn't that great. Like he's always a very reactionary player, but he got the job done. Like against Arsenal with Wayne Rooney in the FA Cup, I believe. Yeah, it was in a cup. But yeah, against Arsenal when they were in the blue kit. Um, and yeah, looking at those type of players who can take the game by the scruff of the neck, they're not there anymore. Like, we need that few players, like two or three of them at least, that say, I'm that guy, calm down, karma, karma. But obviously, that's when you think of karma, you think of not karma, 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 karma. You think of Ronaldo, obviously. I'm not saying we need a Ronaldo. We had a Ronaldo. What's gone is gone. We need a player that can take the game by the scruff of the neck. Right now, I can say we don't have that player like that can do it consistently. Um, that when everything else is going wrong, gets a goal, gets an assist. Um, like even Bruno Fernandes has bad games from now. Everyone does, but we need someone that can that the Bruno Fernandes of 2020, perfect. We need that Bruno Fernandes back, or we need another player that is on his level or better, which is going to be really hard to find. He's got the most goals in a Premier League season by midfielder, more than Frank Lampard, and assists as well. So in like all competitions, I'm saying. So that's gonna be a bit difficult to find someone, or even bring back the old Bruno Fernandez, because eventually they all gel with that mentality, that fixed mindset, that stalemate, with the club. Like once they're at the club long enough, they say, why should I even try anymore? Why should I even play my best? My team's not doing well. It's not my fault. Start deflecting blame on others. That mentality needs to go. Like even with the players that are not the right club, like not the right fit for the club. The moment they say, what's the point? I'm not going to play for the badge. Get them out. Just get them out. We need the players with the growth mindset, or people that have the ability to change their fixed mindset. It's very, very difficult to change that type of fixed mindset, but when it does change, or even, has even an inkling, of change in the air, it does wonders. So we need that as the fourth or fifth solution. Some people with growth mindsets, and yeah, a lot of them. So my advice, that solution would be find at least 4 or 5 mentality monsters, no more, no less. So we need at least half the team to be mentality monsters. Too many of them will have a clash, with egos with other players, or these players could group up and throw the manager under the bus, which we don't want. Too much player power. So we need managers with actual backbones, with actual spines that can actually stand up for what's right, stand up for their players, stand up for their team, and actually say to the team, look, we made a mistake. Just get on with the game. We have still this many minutes, or even if it's the last minute, don't give up until the final whistle. We need at least 4 or 5 of these players, 4 or 5. And if we don't, and we need at least a like for like replacement on the bench or on the fringes of the first team, for these moments where players, there's too many injuries, we can flip the script, have at least some of these mentality monsters in the on the bench, like Park Ji Sung, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. These people were subs, for the most part of their career, but when they came on, they made a difference. We need those type of players, like engine rooms, like literally 3 Lung Park. We need we need a player with a lot of stamina, but also has the mentality of, I'm here to help the team when needed, and also I plan on being part of the first team. The manager, again, the manager makes sure the fringe players and subs are part of the first team plans. They really are. They don't think they are. They are. So it's very important for them to get the players with the right mentality, the players that can actually change a game from the bench as well. Like even Chicharito, like when he came off the bench, he was a really, really useful player. But right now we barely even have a striker, like a main first team striker that can make his spot. Hoyland's being played, but forcefully, like literally, there's no other option. We need a second striker, and we need at least 4 or 5 mentality monsters. So, and I forgot to mention Paul Pogba in the last part when I was talking about people that can take the game by the scruff of the neck. Even though I mentioned him at the start, that's why I forgot to mention him in the last part as well. So like Ronaldo, like Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Paul Pogba, Di Maria even can take a game by the scruff of the neck and change it from time to time. But I'm not saying bring those players back or get these players back from the past. But I'm saying if I was to get a mentality monster, someone that has won the league, been there, done that, my first choice would be um, like from other leagues, because from the Premier League, if you buy someone like Harry Kane's already gone, okay, but he's not won the league, has he? Not even with Bayern. Right now, he's going to be slipping up. But I'm thinking about Victor Osimhen. So he's won the league with Napoli, which is a really, really rare case. Bring him to the Premier League and actually, please make him our main striker so Højlund can learn from him. Right now, Højlund does not need the stress. He's getting the game time. He's improving, but you overplay him, his legs will be gone by the time he's 27, 26, or even 28. We don't want that to happen to him like it happened to Rooney, being played from a young age, overplayed. Right now, Mbappe's played more games than Messi or Ronaldo did at his age, almost double. That's what we don't want. So we need his legs for the future as well, not just for now. To be the engine of the team. Be the game changer. I know he's looking for first team opportunities, or change the have a formation with two strikers up front, or if you have only two strikers, that is not an ideal option. So Victor Osimhen, get him, mentality monster, who's won the league, been there, done that, and Højlund can learn from him. Well, I can't think of the second, but I want to save these for another video. So yeah, getting back to the point, mentality monsters, we need them in the subs and the bench. And the only way we could do this if they're actually given game time in the Premier League as well as cup games. Cup games do not have the same intensity as Premier League games. Believe it or not, the atmosphere is different, especially at Anfield. Game against Manchester City, Arsenal. I'm not gonna say Tottenham. Yeah, Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea. These games in the Premier League are high pressure games, and fringe players, bench players need these game times, not just when injuries avail, injuries are here, but even when there's no injuries, play them, make them as part of the team. Number one, that is the main crucial thing. Have solidarity, have unity, make sure the players are and feel like they are as part of the team, and they actually are a part of the team, the first team plan. These high pressure games can only be, something could only be taken from this game in a positive way if they're given consistent game time. There's no point playing them once or twice every 2 or 3 weeks. These bench players, make them play every week, at least some of them, you know, so they know they can be picked up at any time. They're not safe from not being picked, and the responsibility also lies with them. It's a team effort. So, and if you're winning a cup game, just don't just mess about and play fringe players. Then play your main team, first team players as well as your fringe players. Show them that the game's not over. Like, you don't want to have players relaxing, having fun, even in games that they've already won. Because when you flip the script, have a Champions League final, would you mess about in the final minutes if you're 4-0 up? No. So why do that for cup games and Premier League games? Same mentality, have these mentality monsters. The manager has to be on the field as well, believe it or not, but in the players, like basically in player form. So there has to be like how Manchester United in the past, I hate to bring up, but Sir Alex had a Roy Keane. Does this team have a Ten Hag in one of these players? Someone who's actually smart, who knows what the manager wants and how he wants to play on the pitch. The manager can teach you everything you want, but the players are the ones who are actually playing. So the manager can be sitting there, but they're the ones taking the test. Like it's like the teacher teaching the students, but the students are the ones that actually taking the test, not the teacher. The teacher's already done and dusted and done everything in life. Like it's the student's job to complete these tests, move forward, and actually get the result. And that's what's needed. That's what's needed. For this next part, I'm not really a manager, but what I would say to the players is think of what you're going to do off the ball before you get the ball. So your off the ball movement should be in time with your on the ball movement. So you should already know what you're doing before you even get the ball. So we'll scan the environment, and the best way to do that is taking less touches. So 3 to 4 touches before passing the ball on to the next player. So you're not wasting time slowing down the game. You actually control the tempo of the game, and move along with the ball with the players like as one, rather than doing a few tricks, spinning around, uh running to the other side of the wing, rather than just passing the ball smoothly and smooth transitions. So your off the ball movement has to be on point, as well as your on the ball movement. People are like, oh, you should skill these players up. Not everyone can be a Ronaldo and Messi. You can't, or Neymar, you can't skill 5 players all together, go into the box and score. Not everyone can do that. Some players can do that. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but the players we have at Manchester United cannot do that. Like, you can't expect them to skill up 3, 4 players and then score a goal. Like, you need that team cohesion, that team unity, team effort, sorry, to actually get the ball moving and in the same tempo, same pace, or even speed up the pace, and being able to control the tempo of the game. And that can only be done, they stay alert for most of the 90 minutes. I'm saying most, like, the ideal situation would be stay alert for the 90 minutes plus extra time, but not everyone can do that. So I would say stay alert for most of the 90 minutes. Scan the environment around you. Make sure your off the ball movement is as good, and if not better, than your on the ball movement. So on the ball, you're expected to pass, create chances, finish off the chances, run down the wing. Not even that, like even the defensive part, um, ball playing centre back, make those passes, defend, with your life. Like, don't just let the players run past you and then run after them. Like, be ready beforehand, be on the go, on your toes, like before the players approach. Have that centre back or left back or right back, whoever, tell them, move there. He's gonna make that move. Don't let him move that. Like, it should be like a chessboard. Like, make your move. Think of your move before they make it. So try and predict what the other team's gonna do, but before that, make the other team play your way. Don't give in to their style of play, their way of playing. If they're playing high press, counter attack. If they're playing counter attack, you high press, but at the same time, you should be able to move back with transition as a team, rather than 1 or 2 players running all the way back and missing the chance, and then being lobbed over the goalkeeper and the goalkeeper running out. Happened too many times at Manchester United where the goalkeeper is singled out, um, and we shouldn't have that. People always blame Onana for not making the saves. Okay, but the team, where's the team? Where's the defenders around him? Where's the team cohesion? Why isn't he getting the support when needed? As he said, I was also against Onana at one point, saying, why can't he save these simple saves? But then I look around him, I'm like, where are the defenders? Where even are they? What shouldn't they block the ball before it even gets to Onana? Like, there were times that I've seen Manchester United players do that, like Diego Dallo, Luke Shaw, and even Lisandro Martinez. They actually block the ball before it comes to the goalkeeper, and Rafa Varane is brilliant at this. But with injuries, obviously, comes inconsistency, comes points where the goalkeeper singled out. The manager needs to drill it into these players' heads. You need to protect the goalkeeper and stop the ball from going at the back of the net. Like, literally, that's the main objective. Like, you can score as many goals as you want, but if you're conceding as many, there's no point. So the prime example of this was the game against Bayern Munich versus Manchester United in Champions League. They scored 3 goals, they conceded 4. What happened? 4-3, they lost. Like, you can score as many goals as you want. It's like playing legendary mode in FIFA. Like, you can't play on a high difficulty and not defend, just go and attack. That's like playing on amateur level. That's like beginner. Like, everyone knows that you have to defend as good as you attack. Like, Mourinho is brilliant at this. Score a goal, park the bus, and then when the team's conceded again, go up, get that goal.
Parking the bus.
So, welcome back. Yeah, I've changed my shirt the next day. But yeah, Ten Hag needs to stop trusting players, well, buying players that he's worked with previously and even in the same league. So let's go with because they're system players. They're not going to work at individual levels, especially if they haven't been proven in the Premier League. So you don't know if they'll work or not. It's a hit or miss. So the only player I can think of that actually has worked out and has worked under Ten Hag is Lisandro Martinez. He's hit the ground running. Anthony, we'll get back to him in a bit, but he's still got some time to prove himself. Believe it or not, he's only 23 or 22, 22 or 23. Yeah. So he's still got some time to prove himself, but the pressure's a pressure at Manchester United. You're expected to hit the ground running. Um, Malacia, he was in the Eredivisie. He was a player that Ten Hag liked, but he came to the club. He did really well, but injury prone. He's injured all the time. As for Amrabat, he worked under Ten Hag at Eintracht Frankfurt, but the point is that he's only a loan player. He's only a loanee, so he's not going to give his best. Um, Not if he's always injured all the time. He's very easily. He's like, okay, I can just go back to my previous club, Fiorentina, if needed. He was as a backup option, so he wouldn't be like tenacious type player that can really give his all. That's not always the case. A player who hasn't worked under Ten Hag but has been a loanee was Sergio Reguilon, the one from Tottenham Hotspur, but he hasn't worked under Ten Hag, but he gave his all. He's tenacious. He did better than the other left backs at the club. I'm not saying he's completely better, but he was more consistent. But what I'm saying is, Ten Hag has to stop buying players that have actually worked under him in previous eras, previous clubs like Eintracht Frankfurt or Ajax, especially because they're system players. They cannot work individually because they push up front as a team. They defend as a unit. They rely on each other when needed. So when they have nowhere else to go, they pass it around the field from the midfield or from defense all the way up to the attack. And this team needs a Frankie De Jong type player. And I've always said that Hannibal Mejbri is the closest we'll ever get to Frankie De Jong, but that's for another video. But what I'm saying is Ten Hag needs to stop doing that. That's not working. You could see now, like 99% of the players do not always, so far, the only player that's worked is Lisandro Martinez. Other than him, I can't say who else has worked. I'm not saying they won't always work, but there's a high likely chance they won't work if they haven't already played in the Premier League, especially. So yeah, Ten Hag, stop doing that. That's the solution to that problem. Stop buying players that have worked under you that haven't been proven in the Premier League. It won't work. Not most of the time. Yeah, so the reason for these injuries at Manchester United, especially, is because these players are not adapted to the Premier League. They're not used to the fact that they have many more games per week than any other league. It's a lot more physical as well. So I'm not saying that, people that get challenged or tackled won't get red carded or yellow carded. They will, a lot more than other leagues. But after you've already been tackled, are you really gonna, can it be replayed? Can you just rewind the moment and not get hit? That's impossible. Like at Manchester United in the Premier League, it's not possible to not get injured. And the only way around that is if Ten Hag recruits players that have had at least some Premier League experience, so they can bloom in their roles, rather than having someone who's great in the Eredivisie or great in the French league, but then when they come to the Premier League, it's just hit or miss. Like they can either do really well and bloom in their roles, or just like rot on the bench, or rot on the field, like literally just like they're in Wonderland, like just no man's land, just looking around, dazed at the fact they've just made it to Manchester United, and not actually realize that the hard work starts from now. Like everything you've done has led up to this moment. This Ten Hag needs to buy players that can actually survive in the Premier League first, like who have actually had that taste, that experience in a league as competitive or even the Premier League. So like, I'm thinking like La Liga or Premier League, but even La Liga, like it's not as physical, it's more technical. But we need players that have actual physical strength as well as Premier League experience. So there's no point of physical strength, but then not being able to play around, not being technical enough as well. You need both, a bit of both, but more physicality. Um, and yeah, that's what Ten Hag needs to do. I actually had a structure. He didn't need to worry about the players he recruited. He had Mark Overmars, he had Van der Sar, who have now both, been ill. I hope they get better. But yeah, he's always had that structure behind him. But now it's better. Like Ineos have taken over the footballing operations. There's Omar Barreda, who's had been a CEO for Manchester City and Barcelona in the golden ages, and also Dan Ashworth is rumored to come in as the, um, you know, not sporting director, but the director of football. If he does, it's fine. If he doesn't, it's also fine. But right now, the sporting director is Dave Brailsford, the CEO, the head of performance for cyclists, and yeah, there's yeah, and there's also Jim Ratcliffe, the CEO, who's actually interacting with the fans and the players a lot more than the Glazers have done in the last 15, 20 years. So like 18, 19 years. So what else can I say? Like everything's looking like on in front of me as better than before, but it's about what's on the pitch. If what's on the pitch is not improving, it doesn't matter who comes in. Like what's on the pitch has to improve. The performances, the results. And sadly, I see Ten Hag being blamed for that. Especially if he loses the players by his side, player power takes over, then there's only one person that has the power to sack Ten Hag, and that's Jim Ratcliffe and the board. Um, but I hope that doesn't happen. I hope they see the bigger picture. That we're not going to have another replacement like him in the next few years. Not at least now. Like someone who's had that experience as a manager for the last 10, 15 years and can actually come in, um, has actually played in a top five league or even top six league. Sorry, Eredivisie is like in the top six. So it's Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, Serie A, um, and then there's the League One, Uber Eats League, League One, and then there's the Eredivisie or Portuguese League. So it's like tied between them two. They keep going up. They keep swapping places every now and then. But I know it's within the top seven. So yeah. Otherwise, I don't know who's going to come in. But yeah, that's all I could say. Yeah. So not to be all doomy and gloomy, but until the Glazers are gone, like there won't be a fully fledged, united team, better, if not the same as before. I'm not here to rant about the past, about how they were before, how they are now. Comparison is the killer of joy. But what I can also say is that it looks better from the outside, as I said before, but it's about the results on the pitch. And if the results on the pitch don't go our way, then I see, the fans revolting against the Glazers. That's what fans have to keep in mind. That it's not against the manager. The players are the ones converting what the manager says to them on the pitch, but ultimately it's top down. So whatever the Glazers are doing is now, having an effect on the team, having an effect on the club. They're like leeches, they're like magpies that just buy anything that's shiny and then tell the manager to work with it. Like, what they did with Ronaldo. I'm not saying Ronaldo was the problem, but he was near the twilight of his career, like at the top of his level in Europe. They bought him. The most shocking thing was, the fact that Richard Arnold, the previous CEO, had to sell um, uh, Ronaldo to the Glazers, who actually had him under their reign in 2005. Obviously, he came before the Glazers' reign, but why'd you have to tell the Glazers as a CEO of Manchester United who this player is by now in 2020, 2021? Like, how do you not know who Cristiano Ronaldo is? That's the most shocking aspect of it. He had to sell them as saying, "Oh, this is the Tom Brady of football." I'm like, really? Like the Tom Brady of football? Like this guy's known all over the world, if not like Europe as well. And you're in America, obviously, and in America, they're known for not giving a crap about any celebrity or even unless they're from Hollywood, um, or like working somewhere in America. But really, you had to sell Ronaldo to them as the Tom Brady of football. That made me lose my mind. I'm like, how do you not know who Ronaldo is? He was literally there when you bought the club. He was there. Um, you were there. Well, no, not they weren't there physically, but as owners of Manchester United, aren't you even aware of what's going on in football? Like this is the most prized player, if not the second most, like within top two, Ronaldo and Messi. Ronaldo, Messi. Why say Messi? But yeah, it's just shocking the way Richard Arnold had to do that to even like they're just leeches, they're magpies, whatever you want to call them. They just buy anything that's shiny that can get them shirt sales. Like I didn't buy this shirt from Manchester United. Not me though. It's a gift. But yeah, I know that would be hypocritical. Like, oh, you're giving the shirt sales for Manchester United, but I'm just saying, like, this was a gift. But anyway, yeah, and it wasn't from the Manchester United store. But by shirt sales, I mean like who can get them the most shirt sales? Like, oh, get Ronaldo, get um, get Sanchez, get Di Maria. Like they're just buying all these big players near the end of their careers, like late 20s, early 30s, like 29 and above. Like people were like, oh, Sanchez is coming in. He's the new Robert Van Persie. He's 29 years old. He's gonna help us win the league. And then what happened? I class him as the worst signing of Manchester United. Literally, I'll delve into that a bit deeper in other videos. But yeah, I class him as the worst signing of Manchester United in the history of Manchester United. People are like, oh, Di Maria this, Di Maria that, or Paul Pogba this, Paul Pogba that. I don't think that. I think, Sanchez was the worst signing of Manchester United. Yeah, so, I mean, Ten Hag is an authoritative manager, so he wants people to follow him or, it's my way or the highway. He needs to stop that. Like, he can't do that. Like he thought when he came to Manchester United, they had the funds, they have the club funds, they have the money to replace the players that he won't get along with in 1 or 2 seasons. But the truth is, these players have been here since Louis Van Gaal's time, since David Moyes' time. Like Louis Van Gaal at least, Louis Van Gaal and Mourinho's time. Like Eric Bailly, Lindelof, Martial, Rashford, and others. They have been here since like 2, 3 managers, 4 managers before him. So like Louis Van Gaal, Mourinho, Ole, Ragnick, Carrick, like 5 different people, and they're still here. And yeah, five, five. And I'm like Ten Hag literally needs to pick and choose his battles, and when he does, do it privately with the player one on one, so the player knows that if he does end up venting, he vents in front of Ten Hag, not in front of the media, or like especially Ten Hag. He has a habit of talking to the media in indirect or direct terms, like oh, like sometimes being too blunt, like oh, you didn't follow orders, like and then the media like makes it into a circus, like what was this? What was this order that he didn't follow? And then it finds out, oh, he just didn't train well, or he didn't train at all, or and that's a big aspect of a professional footballer. If you're not training and you expect to play the game, um, before it could work maybe, but if the team's in dire need, even now, if the team's in dire need and this player can perform in big games, or even, but why would you give that player a chance to play in the big games if they're not playing in the small ones or even playing as well in the small ones, or even in training or even training? It would give the other players, player power basically, saying, if you don't train, it's okay. You'll still be played if you're a big player. You can't treat the superstars like crap and then expect them to give their all. Like they have to be trusted, they have to be valued just like any other human being, just like any other employee. Like they're at the club because, you know, they're professional international level players. They're not some like just some random player that's come from a different league and just playing in Manchester United. They've actually had international and professional footballing experience. Like you can't treat them like crap. But I'm saying the superstars are superstars, but the normal players are also treat them with the right respect. Like you can't just think you can just get them sacked to get them get them sold like they're pieces of chicken or like like they're not. They're human beings. Like you have to try and calm them down, give them a space to vent from time to time, catch up with them when you sense there's a problem and you've heard there's a problem with you and this player in the media or even through players, someone who's leaking their dressing room talks. Dean Henderson. Dean Henderson. Dean Henderson. Anyway, yeah, it's not just him. It could be others as well. You just never know. So this means he has to change his philosophy partly, rather than saying my way or the highway. Actually, say, you know what? I'm here to listen to you, show a bit of empathy, and actually feel and do things that show how it's like to be in their shoes, rather than like just say my way or the highway. Like, show and actually show true empathy, or be authentic with your players. Like, don't tell something else in the media and tell the players something else unless you're trying to defend the player. Like, try and be transparent, um, and change your philosophy a bit. Like, it's like going into, like, you might look like a man if you just follow what you said, but sometimes what you said can be wrong. Like, owning up to that is being a bigger man than just someone just follows their own orders. Like, even if they know they're wrong, they just try and prove themselves right. That is a big no-no. Like, especially at Manchester United, you can't afford mistakes. If you find out it's a mistake, change it. Like, literally, you're the manager. Like, just change your way of thinking first, and then change your instructions. Like, if the players question your ability of managing them, or even like say you said this but did that, just just do what you think is right for the club. Mourinho is an example of being a dinosaur previously. A manager that was a dinosaur, treated or being said as a dinosaur. Not adapting to the today's needs. But since being sacked by Tottenham, or even having this comment, like, he had previous comments in the past, like, oh, players at the age of 23 back in 2003 or four, like Lampard, were men. Now they're not. Like, obviously that's a wrong comment. But what he did since he got sacked by Tottenham, is realize, look, I need to be the players' friends at some points as well, not just be their, um, you know, uh, substitute dad. In fact, like, um, set boundaries, for when players do something wrong, so the other players can look at that as an example, but also be understanding, show empathy, especially since he went wrong with Dede Ali, with the mental health aspect, calling him lazy, even when, he was struggling to get out of bed, things. And that's what the media picked up on. So he learned from those mistakes. He was like, what I'm doing is wrong. And rather than saying these comments, he does the opposite of what he used to say now. He does it through actions and words. So, like, he became friends with the media now, like, a positive atmosphere, positive outlook. And even when he got sacked by Roma, like, it wasn't like, he was still like, obviously the Mourinho way of saying it's not my fault, I got sacked by the management who doesn't know football. But at least you're not turning on the fans, turning on the players, turning on the people you've worked with. Um, and that's the biggest aspect. Not everyone likes their manager, not everyone likes their person, but as long as they're not saying it publicly while they're at the club, that's what Mourinho was known for doing in the last final three seasons in each of his clubs, like Chelsea, Manchester United, Tottenham. This was a third season spell, and he always starts off at the start of the season making excuses, blaming the management, but he stopped that. Like, he only did that after he left the club, which is what we need as Ten Hag. Please, Ten Hag, do not turn on the club or the fans or the players whilst you're at the club. If you want to do that afterwards, that's your choice in your book or whatever to help sell it. But yeah, just don't do that at the club, please. And like, slightly hint at the boundaries being crossed before you actually give the punishment, rather than just giving the punishment and the players wondering, like, why'd you give me this punishment? Like, make it clear that this is why the player got the punishment before he actually gets the punishment. Like, make sure that he's slightly overstepping the boundary. So you show empathy, you show understanding. So communication is key. So yeah, I mean, I hope you really enjoyed that video. That was part one of three. So yeah, just enjoy your day, your night, good night, and yeah, see you again, and peace.